so we're preparing to go to war with Iran. Massive military buildup, assets moving into position, evacuations beginning across the Middle East. But nobody can quite explain why. Not in a way that holds up under scrutiny. What we're watching is unprecedented, a war in search of a strategy. An administration cycling through different justifications every 48 hours, testing which argument resonates best with the American public. And that should concern everyone. The shifting justifications. At the State of the Union 2 nights ago, President Trump led with the nuclear argument. We haven't heard those secret words. We will never have a nuclear weapon. Hours before his speech, Iranian Foreign Minister Araghchi stated publicly, Iran will under no circumstances ever develop a nuclear weapon. The administration set up a goalpost. Iran cleared it before the speech happened. So what's the standard? Then 24 hours later, Secretary of State Marco Rubio pivoted to ICBMs. Iran is building capability to strike the continental United States. NBC News immediately pointed out this was the first time any U.S. official made this claim. A Defense Intelligence Agency report from last year said Iran could develop a military-viable ICBM by 2035. Not next year, not in 5 years. 2035. And a U.S. official told NBC there's been no indication of dramatic new progress. The sudden urgency is new, not the capability. The nuclear enrichment contradiction. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff claims Iran is a week away from bomb-making material. But the Wall Street Journal quoted 3 nuclear experts who directly contradict this. David Albright, former UN weapons inspector, we don't see any evidence they are trying to reconstitute their nuclear weapons program. They are essentially on hold. Robert Einhorn, former State Department official, there's a de facto suspension of enrichment. There is no enrichment taking place. Gary Samore, former White House official on WMD. As far as we know, they haven't done that. Administration officials say one thing. Independent experts with satellite imagery access say something completely different. The real arguments not being made. There are legitimate reasons for military action against Iran. Real arguments that could be made to the American people. Regime change. The Iranian government funds terrorism, destabilizes the region, and brutally represses its own population. Support for proxies. Iranian-backed militias have American blood on their hands. Attacks on U.S. personnel in Iraq and Syria. The killing of protesters. Months ago, Iran shot demonstrators in the streets. Women and young people demanding basic freedoms. These are substantive arguments. Arguments the American people could evaluate and decide whether they support. But that's not what we're getting. Instead, rapidly shifting narratives that don't hold up. ICBMs that won't exist for another decade. Nuclear programs, experts say, are on hold. Chemical weapons programs that suddenly appeared this week with no evidence trail. Why this matters. We're barely 20 years past Iraq. Weapons of mass destruction that didn't exist. Intelligence that was exaggerated or false. A war launched on premises that collapsed under examination. Now we see similar patterns. Classified intelligence that can't be shared. Rapidly evolving justifications designed to find what sticks rather than communicate coherent strategy. You can't ask Americans to support war by saying it's all classified. Just trust us. Not after Iraq. Not when independent experts publicly contradict official statements. The political manipulation. Politico reported senior Trump advisors would prefer Israel strike Iran first. Why? Because it's easier to sell to the American public if we're defending an ally. Senior officials are arguing an Israeli attack would trigger Iranian retaliation, helping muster voter support for U.S. strikes. The calculus is explicitly political. Americans would stomach war better if the U.S. or an ally were attacked first. Polling shows Americans support regime change but are unwilling to risk U.S. casualties. So the administration is engineering a scenario where casualties become politically acceptable. This isn't strategy. This is war as theater. Even hawks are concerned. The Wall Street Journal editorial board, traditionally hawkish on Iran and supportive of regime change, wrote, It's time for the Commander-in-Chief to explain his thinking on Iran to the American people. There are excellent reasons to take military action now against the weakened revolutionary regime, but Mr. Trump has never made a sustained case for doing so. They point out Trump needs to ask for support from Congress and the public in advance. He'll have more allies if the war doesn't go as planned, which it rarely does. # operational capability, visa strategic clarity. The U.S. military can execute stunning operations. Look at Venezuela last month. Special operators captured Maduro and his wife with 0 casualties. That was unexpected success. Iran is vastly different. Geographic challenges are massive. Military capacity is orders of magnitude higher. But operational success doesn't equal strategic success. You can win every tactical engagement and still lose strategically without clear objectives. # negotiations collapse. Yesterday, negotiations fell through. Iran and the U.S. held hours of indirect talks and walked away without a deal. Iran refused to transfer uranium abroad, demanded sanctions lifting, and won't discuss missiles or proxy support. Here's the thing. We're asking Iran to negotiate their own downfall. Give up nuclear missiles, regional influence. Accept crippling sanctions. No regime would accept that. Were the talks genuine or theater? Probably theater, checking the diplomatic box before military action. # evacuations signal imminent action. The U.S. State Department authorized non-emergency personnel in Israel to leave. Ambassador Huckabee told staff, "Get out today. Focus on getting a seat anywhere, but first priority is leaving the country." This mirrors pre-strike evacuations before Operation Midnight Hammer. Multiple countries are calling citizens to leave Iran and Israel. China, Canada, Sweden, India, Poland, Germany, Brazil, Australia. When you see coordinated evacuation activity, something is about to happen. # Iran's potential response. Iran warned any attack triggers all-out war. They're weakened. The 12-day war destroyed proxy networks, degraded missiles, hit infrastructure. But cornered animals are dangerous. One scenario, a doomsday order to fire everything. Hezbollah, Houthis, remaining Hamas, Iraqi and Syrian militias. All at once. The proxy threat is overblown. These groups have been significantly degraded. The Houthis have capability and would target Red Sea shipping and U.S. naval assets. But can Iran push a button and get perfect coordination? Doubtful. These militias act in their own interests. More concerning, unverified reports say launch authority for missiles has been pushed down the chain of command. If junior officers across Iran have authorization, missiles could fly from multiple locations simultaneously once strikes begin. That increases risk substantially. # the weekend approaches. President Trump historically strikes when markets are closed. U.S. markets close in hours. This could be a kinetic weekend. But here's the core issue. Whether you support military action against Iran or oppose it, the case needs to be made clearly to the American people. Right now, that case doesn't exist. We're getting tested messaging, shifting justifications, political calculations about optics. Intelligence claims experts publicly contradict. There are real reasons military action might be justified. Regime change, proxy support, regional destabilization. Make those arguments. Defend them. Let Americans decide. But don't cycle through narratives hoping one sticks. Don't test which justification polls best. Don't engineer scenarios to make casualties politically palatable. The stakes are too high. American lives are on the line. Regional stability is at risk. U.S. credibility for a generation depends on getting this right. And right now, we're not there.